Hey everybody, welcome to my shop. I'm Jacob Ray and I make razors. Today I'm actually working on kind of a large batch. So what I'm hoping to do is take scales and then make wedges for them. So you can see I've already got them cut out, shaped up. This particular one. It all comes from this, which you can see is a sheet of plastic. Or acrylic or whatever. There's an actual technical term for it. I will just call it plastic. Because you can make wedges out of pretty much anything. You can make them out of wood, metal, plastic. Doesn't matter. It's a wedge. As long as it holds its shape, you're good to go. So let me see if I can find some scales and we can make some wedges. I found a bunch of scales. By found, I mean I have had these made for the last couple of days. I've been sanding them, trying to make them look uniform. This material is carbon fiber. Let's see if I can hold that up for you guys. I do like it. It's a very strong material, but as far as workability, it's a pain in the butt. It eats up bandsaw blades really fast. It's like G10 if you've ever worked with that. It's a fiberglass, and yeah, it just goes through whatever the heck blade you're putting it through. It'll eat up sandpaper really fast. All that because it's really strong stuff. But anyways. You can see what I'm doing now is I have them all pinned together, like just temporarily to hold them. So this is actually 2 scales pinned like this. So I'm just going to take and get them, all the little mock-up pins, kind of, whatever you want to call them, out. That's pretty much it. Next step is going to be doing one of these where I have my pre-made wedge, which I just cut out and sanded it into a literal wedge shape. I mean, that's why they call them a wedge. What I'm going to do is lay this like that, and I'm going to drill a hole through it. I'll show you that. It's not all that complicated. Alrighty. This just ensures that it's not too big or not too small. Now I'm going to get it started using that, and then I'm actually going to lay it flat. Going to put a little guide pin in there so that I know where to cut, because obviously this is too big, which is good because I need to make quite a few wedges. These are all something I need to make wedges with. Yeah, it's a blade I'm not quite done with. And all I did there was I laid it flat. Sorry guys, I'm not the best filmer. So I laid it flat on there, on my wedge. You can see it's a wedge shape. And I scored right there so that I know where to cut, which is just going to be my next step. Forgot to plug it in. And now you can see the wedge is cut out. Obviously it's not done. Alright, so I need to take this and just grind off anything that's not a wedge. Pretty simple. Alright, definitely don't want to go any closer than that, otherwise it doesn't really hold it in place very well. All I'm doing, I'm taking a knife and just clearing that out. This plastic tends to kind of like burr a little bit, and that's all. Not all materials do that. Anyways, let's put it on. So in this part, we gotta put the wedge on. So I'll show you how that's done. It's not overly complicated, but it does take a bit of practice. Okay, so I have both sides of the scale. I have my 1/16 inch brass rod, which has a hole drill already. I have my wedge, which you saw me make earlier. Now you go ahead and put that on in the direction that you want. Obviously we want to make a nice V, so you put it on backwards. Oops, no big deal, you just cut it off, put it on the right way. So I got one side on, just wedge in there. Next step, thing about carbon fiber is the holes are almost never big enough. But if you do them too big, they flop around. So these are really, really helpful for what we're going to be doing called peening. They're just flush cutters. You can get them on Amazon or your local hardware store. Doesn't really matter where you get them, but I do recommend getting a pair of the flush ones. It makes it a lot easier to like accurately cut your metal, your pin, I guess you could say. Notice I don't really know. I just don't use all the technical terms because I work by myself, so I'm just so used to just blah, 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 talking to myself, nailing it out. Anyways, I'll have the crazies out of the way. So I put both sides of the scale on the wedge you can see here. Makes a little V. Not a drastic V, just a little V. Just enough, not too much. So what I'm going to do is I have this big old bucket right here full of washers. Now, let's see if I can show them to you. I have this big bucket of washers anyways, so here we go. This is a variety pack, basically. I have all different colors, materials. I have copper, steel, brass, pretty standard. But what I do is I take one of them, see if I can show you this, how little these things are, and I put it on there like so. One, see, just slides on. Now I'm going to go with the smaller one. Two, you can see it's right there. Slide it on. Now I'm going to go ahead and cut this right. This is going to be hard to show you, so I'm just going to have to kind of tell you. I'm going to cut it, and I want to leave some. I don't want it flush cut, right? Because if I do that, you'll see why in a sec why it's bad. So I'm going to go ahead and cut and leave just a hair. It's hard to focus, but just maybe 1/16 of an inch, maybe less. Now, I've got that little nub of the brass rod hanging out. I'm going to take this ball peen side of the hammer and just gently tap to mushroom out. So it's kind of like a rivet on old boats. What you got to be careful of when you do the way I do it is not bending the other side. Just a good idea. Anyways, I'm going to repeat for the other side. You know, I go, well, mushroom out one side, mushrooms out the other, so you got to snip it off. Anyways, I go big washer. Come on, little guys. Sometimes they don't want to be picked up. And then little washer. And you can see, now I've got them on both sides. Now, it's important to get it as tight together as you possibly can, even to the point where, especially with this carbon, because it's so tight, you got to kind of make sure it's not loose. So you want to get it as close to where it's going to be staying as possible. Again, same thing on the other side. You cut off a little bit with leaving a little overhanging. And then the same deal. Just gently tap it. Okay, there we go. We've wedged it. Like good little chopsticks, eh? Anyways, that's how you basically put on a wedge. Now you just come through, grind it or sand it or file it, whatever you want to do and make it look pretty. The one thing I would like to say that I think is a little more important than just how to do it is when you are cutting these off, make sure not to leave too much. You leave too much, what happens is when you're doing a little tap, the peening as it's called, to try and get it to mushroom out, sometimes it'll bend on the inside in here where you can't see it, and you'll be so frustrated because you'll get this razor together and you're ready to go ahead and put it, everything. You're like, good, it's done. And you'll notice that your blade sits like way over here. And you're just like, what the heck? I used the right stuff. I drilled a 90-degree hole. Everything's perfect. Why is this sitting off like that? Well, it's probably because you left this a little bit too long when you peened it, and it just bent a little bit, and it'll push one scale further down. So it goes in, and instead of being 90 degrees, it'll just be like a little bit, and you won't even notice. So practice this, and don't get frustrated, because it's not that hard to just take our flush cutters and snip it off and start over if you do mess up. Anyways, that's going to be how to do wedges. Ask any questions you got, and I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you very much. Have a great day.